Is Donald Trump a nice man? I'm going to tell you today what I think of Donald Trump. I'm also going to talk about some very topical and relevant issues in South Africa at the moment. Our land expropriation bill that has recently been signed. Donald Trump that has offered people in South Africa to become refugees in the USA. The fact of the matter is, in the past on IWPK, I've avoided controversy. I haven't spoken about religion, politics, race, or even sex. And that stops today.
You're listening to Intentionality with Paul Kemp.
Is Donald Trump a nice man? I think it's an unfair question. I mean, whether you like him or not, let's all be very honest about it. The average person out there would not think Donald Trump is a nice man. He's brash, he's blunt, he's aggressive, he's combative, he enjoys conflict, he dominates conversations, he insults people. That's not the technical textbook definition of a nice man, in my opinion. Yet, he became president of the United States for a second time. He's a billionaire, and he's one of the most influential figures in modern history. Donald Trump has built a career and a brand out of not being nice. He once said, when somebody challenges you unfairly, be brutal, be tough, and fight back. He's lived by that philosophy, whether in business, entertainment, politics, and instead of playing nice, he plays to win. But does this mean that not nice people will always win? Well, there's an interesting counterpoint to this, especially if you look at Trump. His approach has certainly worked for him, but history has shown us a number of times people that are nice, that have also won, that have also succeeded. Abraham Lincoln is a good example. He was famous for his kindness and empathy, and yet he led America through a very divisive war. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest people on earth, is well known for his humility and generosity. So it isn't just about being nice. Maybe it's about something deeper. The world doesn't always reward kindness. It does reward strength sometimes. And some of the most successful people on earth strike the right balance between being kind and being powerful. They aren't cruel, but they aren't pushovers either. They play by the rules, but they don't let themselves be taken advantage of. In politics and business, people respect strength. If you're nice but weak, you will be overlooked. If you're strong but ruthless, you might win, but at what cost? So what's the lesson here? Should we abandon being nice? Should we embrace the Trump playbook and go full-blown, all out for a win at all cost? Not necessarily, I think. The reality is that being nice alone won't get you ahead, but neither will being cruel. The trick is to be firm, strategic, and intentional. Know when to be kind and when to stand your ground. Now, one of the best quotes I've ever heard that captures this concept beautifully comes from Machiavelli. And he said, it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. Now, Trump embodies that philosophy. I don't think he really cares about being loved. He cares about power, influence, and control. And so far, that approach has worked for him. But what about the rest of us? Maybe the goal isn't to be feared or blindly nice. Maybe the best plan is to be respected. Now, initially, I did not like Donald Trump, and I didn't think he was a good leader. By the way, it's important to understand that I also didn't think Joe Biden or Kamala Harris were good leaders, or that they would be good presidents for America. I think it was just at a certain time I might have liked them more than Donald Trump. I still don't like Donald Trump, but I do think he's the kind of leader that America needs at the moment. And let me explain before you judge me too harshly, too quickly. There are a number of very powerful leaders in the world at the moment. People like Xi Jinping from China, Vladimir Putin from Russia. And if you just think about the dynamics of world politics, the dynamics of power, doesn't it make sense that you want somebody in America in control in the presidency that's also powerful? Somebody that's very unpredictable, somebody that these powerful leaders don't necessarily know where they stand with. I'm just wondering to myself whether that is not maybe a good thing for the world and a good thing for the United States at the moment. I also think there's a lot of politicians in the world, and I'm not going to name any names at the moment, that struggle to do things. They promise a lot, but they're quite light on implementation. Maybe it might be better for the world and for America if for a while there is a president that does a lot of things, even if you do not agree with a lot of the things that he's done. Again, I want to reiterate the fact that I don't necessarily like Donald Trump. I haven't changed my opinion on that, but I do ask the question to myself quite often whether or not the world and the United States specifically doesn't need a powerful and unpredictable leader like Trump at the moment. Now, here's where I want to go to a question that I've received a number of times in our business over the last 2 weeks. What Donald Trump is doing, the executive orders that he is signing, the announcements he's making about South Africa, what would be the effect of that on investments in South Africa? Now, when we look at investments, I really just want to split this conversation in two. We need to think about, firstly, something like speculating. So if you're making investments for the short term, you're buying a share or you're taking a position on a commodity or on a exchange rate to make a profit in a day or in a week or even in an hour, that's speculation. And that's something very different to what it is that I want to discuss today around investments. The only thing I can say for you, if that's the kind of thing that you're doing at the moment, is firstly, good luck. Because in the volatile environment that we're currently in, that's being created by Donald Trump, I think it's a huge gamble speculating on the movement of certain assets and commodities. What I want to rather talk about is the more traditional long-term type of investing and what Donald Trump is doing and the effect that that can have on those traditional types of investments. In my opinion, one has to firstly be very careful who you lend your ears out to and what you believe. It's critical that you analyze very carefully everything that you hear out there when you make decisions specifically about investments. My firm philosophy is if you have a specific investment goal in mind over a longer period of time, and you have a carefully crafted strategy to get to that goal, anything that Donald Trump does in the short term should not detract you from that strategy and that goal that you have. So the advice really that I am giving you right now is ignore the noise. Ignore the volatility that we are seeing in the markets. Look long term, because I do believe at the end of the day, when the noise dies down, the world will continue to find a way of bumbling along the way we have done for so many years, for so many decades. I really do think that there's still huge opportunities to get good returns from investments, irrespective of the role that Donald Trump plays in the world and the decisions that he makes that has an influence on investments in the short term. The bottom line is be careful of making decisions and specifically making changes to your investments simply because Donald Trump woke up this morning and decided to say something controversial. Now, I just want to quickly explore one other thing that I've mentioned, and that is being critical of what you hear, analyzing everything you read and everything you hear in the media. There's, in my mind, absolutely no doubt about it that we've lost a lot of balance in the mainstream media. And I'm not just talking about here in South Africa. I'm talking about worldwide. I'm talking about social media. We need to understand that a lot of mainstream media have their own agendas and their own beliefs that they will support through their channels. But the best example I can think of in terms of trying to get a balanced view of what is happening in the world is, of course, social media. We need to understand that social media works primarily on algorithms. So if you want to see a video on YouTube on what it takes to be a good leader, and you've watched 3 videos about good leadership on YouTube, What's going to happen the next time you go into YouTube? There's going to be a number of videos on good leadership. And it's true even for the more controversial things. If you enter in your search on social media or on YouTube, something like, is Donald Trump a bad president? I can take you a bet that the next few videos that will come up in your feed because of these algorithms will be things that tell you Donald Trump is a bad president. But have you ever tried changing that around? What if you put in there something about, is Donald Trump a good president? There's a very good chance that the next few videos that will come into your feed will be things around people that admire Donald Trump and think he is a good president. And that's why I think it is so important that we remain careful of what it is we believe and what it is that we lend our ears out. And that when you have an opinion about these things, you keep your mind open to alternative views and alternative opinions out there. Now, if we can just get back to one or two of the other things that Donald Trump has said recently, this offer that he has made to Afrikaans-speaking people getting refugee status in America. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's going to happen or it's not going to happen, although I have my doubts about whether this is something that will really be feasible, be practical. I'm not even going to tell people they should or should not apply for this refugee status. I'm just going to tell you what my view is. Now, my view is simply this. As a concerned South African citizen, knowing and seeing that there's still a lot of problems in this country, I have absolutely no plans to leave this country. I still believe that South Africa is an incredible place to live, a place with incredible opportunities. Do we have problems? Of course we do. But I'm certainly not at a point where I'm even close to thinking about applying for refugee status in the United States. Doesn't matter what Donald Trump says. I actually believe it's time for us to start coming together more, for all of us to start doing more, to get more involved. I've shied away from giving my opinion on these things on this channel before. I think it's time for us to start engaging in conversations, even if it means we're a little bit controversial sometimes. For us to try to work together to find solutions, to talk about solutions to the serious problems we have in South Africa. And a great example of this is Mark Sham. Mark Sham wrote a letter that was published on social media. I saw it on Facebook yesterday. And in this letter, he was specifically addressing this topic that I'm talking about. He was talking about Donald Trump and about the South African government and about this offer of refugee status. It's a very long letter, but I really think it's worth a read, because what he was advocating was a more balanced perspective and everybody getting involved in trying to find solutions for this country, not just leaving the finding of solutions to the politicians in this country. And I want to read to you something that he said in this letter that I found incredibly inspiring. Mark said, "The truth doesn't always sit neatly in the middle. Sometimes it exists in multiple opposing ideas at the same time." And reading this and thinking about the preparation for this episode, I was able to convince myself that I need to work harder on getting a more balanced view in my life. That I must be less afraid of giving my view and getting more involved, even if people disagree with me, or even if I think I'm being controversial. But most importantly, I've realized that I need to continue trying to be less of a nice guy. So let me end off this episode by just explaining that very briefly. Years ago, and I alluded to this in my previous episode where I had an interview with Eric Kruger, I went through a period in time where I was questioning a lot of things in my life. And Eric helped me through coaching to get to a mantra in my life, a mantra that I have been trying to implement for a very long period of time. And that mantra is less liked, more respected. And the whole idea behind this was to try and be less of a nice guy, but very importantly, while staying kind and staying true to your heart. Because here's the important thing. I really do care about people. I really do have a lot of empathy for people. I will never be able not to be a nice guy. But I do think it is important to stand up for what you believe in, to stand up for what you believe you should be respected for. And that's the message that I really want to bring across in today's episode. And for those of you out there who already think that I'm not a very nice guy, all I can say to that is, at least it seems as if this process is working to a certain extent. So that's it for this episode today. I'm going to end off with my tip of the week as always. And this time it's a recommendation of a new podcast that I started following. I recently started listening to the Mel Robbins podcast. Really great podcast, really worth following and worth listening to. And there was a specific episode that I listened to recently. And I want to not just recommend this podcast to you, but I want to actually recommend something that she spoke about with a guest. And the two things she spoke about was firstly fubbing and secondly the 3 W's. So let me briefly explain. Fubbing is when you snub somebody with your phone. And this is something that's a particular pet hate of mine. When you're in a conversation with somebody, when you're in a meeting with somebody, this could be at work, this could be at home, it could be with a friend. And while you're speaking to somebody, they pick up their phone and they start looking at things on their phone. That's when somebody snubs you with their phone. That's fubbing. And I think that's particularly rude. And I think it's something that we need to start calling people out on when they practice fubbing. But here's an interesting tool that I think everybody can use to actually avoid that kind of behavior. And more importantly, to avoid you spending hours just scrolling on your phone, spending on your time on your phone, and then realizing hours later that you were not very productive in that time. And that's the 3 W's. Now, the 3 W's work like this. And I like the idea of taking something like this and putting it on your phone as a screen protector so that when you pick up your phone, you actually see this. It really is about asking yourself 3 questions when you want to pick up your phone. The first is what for? Why are you taking your phone and actually looking at your phone? Is it important? Maybe it is you need to check a message that you're getting. Maybe it is for directions you need to your next appointment. Maybe you're just looking at your diary to see when your next appointment is. So that's the what for question. The second W is why now? Why do I feel I need to pick up my phone right now in the middle of this conversation that I'm having with somebody? I think the why now is particularly powerful if you find yourself having the habit of, while you're talking to people, picking up your phone. And the last W is what else? And it's important. What is it that you're sacrificing by being on your phone right now? Are you potentially sacrificing a good conversation with a colleague, a friend, or a loved one? And in that way, really sacrificing the quality relationship and discussion you can have with that person because you're on your phone. Is it maybe time you can spend more productively on something else? It doesn't have to necessarily be work. I think if you start asking yourself those 3 questions every time you pick up your phone, you might get to the end of the week, and when you look at your screen time, you might be able to reduce that screen time a little bit. So it's what for, why now, and what else.
I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, the FFG Group of Companies. Take another step into living a more intentional life by being more intentional with your finances and insurance. As a trusted provider of a wide range of financial services, the FFG Group offers innovative, tailored solutions that help companies and individuals thrive and flourish. They are an amazing company that I believe in because they embody intentionality in everything they do, and I'm proud to partner with them. FFG is an authorized financial services provider. Ready to take the next step? Click the link below and start making better, more intentional financial decisions, or visit their website. Remember, with FFG, you create the memories, we ensure the journey.
My final thought for today is really just this. If I don't know you and you listen to Intentionality with Paul Kempf, and for some strange reason, somewhere in South Africa, you run into me, you see me somewhere, even if you don't know me, I really want to encourage you to reach out, to just say hi. I would really love to meet you and to show my appreciation for your support for this channel. And if any of the episodes we've made in the past, if anything we've said had an impact on you, a positive impact on you, please share with your friends and your family. Thank you for listening, and until next time, stay intentional.
Thanks for watching Intentionality with Paul Kempf. Subscribe, like, and click that bell to get notified when we release more episodes on how to live a life of intention and purpose.